I limited myself, is the Kiwi Viewer. Now this one is more advanced. So if you have students who might be doing projects in differential equations, partial differential equations, or if you want to motivate students to think about how they can apply their math and their science, the Kiwi Viewer is a fun animation app. So Kiwi Viewer is free, it's open source, and it's for visualization. So it's compatible with a variety of file formats. So what I'm going to show you is my research is in protein structure analysis, so molecular dynamics simulations. So you do the underlying math, Newton's law of motion, you get a whole bunch of data, and then you have to parse this data. What does this data tell me? What's going on? So you can download your files or view them remotely. So I have downloaded a file. Let's see, I'll go to my downloads, and I'm gonna look at a hemoglobin. So a bunch of different things on here. Let's look at a protein data bank file, which contains the structure of a hemoglobin. So this is just one of the many renderings that come out of a molecular dynamics simulation. And once you have the data in here, you can go deeper into the molecule. So these are all atoms, green, yellow, red are the different atoms of the hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is in our blood, captures oxygen, carries it around our bodies. The mathematics is the law of motion. Newton's law of motion, you're solving a differential equation numerically. And each time step, you're getting a snapshot of what the hemoglobin looks like. This is just one time step. And the simulations take millions and millions and millions of time steps in order to see what's actually happening. But for students, just to give them a glimpse, you can say, okay, you have all this data. This is just one piece of the data, a very, very small piece. And you can analyze this data with this visualization. The whole process of visualizing is scientific. So the computer science students love this because, okay, you're doing an animation. I'm going into my hemoglobin molecule, looking at atoms as if I'm a part of the action. So I could go in, I could see the larger picture. So this is kind of fun stuff for me just to play around with, to connect to the students, the math, to the science, to the visualization, and the pretty stuff that they like to see. One last item I'll note, again, I use this to show students their science is applicable across. Here's the planet, visualizing, we get closer and closer, further away. We can put in Google Map information, and actually when I'm zooming in, I can then see more precise details. This is just a quick rendering. What else is in here? A CAN simulation. Okay, let's go back. Let's actually do the simulation. You show them simulation. Here, this is a simulation that can play. What happens when you put force on a can? We're watching the can being crushed. So this app is a fun app, free fun app, which allows you to download your particular files or use some of the sample files to motivate the students in their science. Okay, why do we need to learn how to solve differential equations, and why do we want to smooth those differential equations, and why do we want to learn partial differential equations? Because that makes our animations even smoother and more realistic. And the smashing can is one of the motivators for the PDEs and the ODEs. So this is the last app that we're going to play with today. Again, as I mentioned, you can download data from various places. I downloaded data from the Protein Data Bank and other types of files that you can create animations as shown here. Thank you for your attention. And of course, if you have any questions, you can email, call, or stop by. I have plenty more, but I don't have time.
all these apps are at the App Store?
Yes, all of these are in the App Store, and all of them have Android versions of it.
Okay.
And I always suggest use the free version first, and when you get into a glitch like I did trying to project it, you have to buy it. You know, some of them, the paid versions are not even worth, you know, the time for what you can get out of the other ones. Okay, that's all for me. Other questions?
I have a question. When you use these in your class, do you carve out time then to explain to the students how you were doing with us, so then they can use it on their own, or do you just use them in class?
So, for example, this is just a motivating one.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to show pretty stuff to keep them engaged.
Mhm.
But the other ones, the calculators, I have them look up there in the graphics and have them, send them home to do something. So either they're doing it on their own personal calculator, or I have some students who don't have a graphing calculator, and I'm still telling them they really need one, because they can't use their devices on my test. You know, you can't use your cell phone with the app on my test. So, but while you're at home, you can play around with that, but make sure when you come to class, you borrow somebody's calculator and know how to use it. So.
Just a thought, you made me think of something that wasn't what I was about to do with this, but you're saying they can't use the device on the test, but on the iPad, there's something where you can lock them into the calculator?
Right, and so I just have to get them all there
early enough to do it,
that,
yeah.
because some of them, and I've been thinking about doing that, but some of them have a class before
Oh,
my
okay,
test, so
yeah.
it's just a struggle. So
To get it
I don't
done.
want, I tell them, okay, we can leave it with me overnight, I can put it in there. but
Right,
like,
they're not gonna do that.
That's not gonna happen, because I have other stuff on there. I'm like,
So what, the thing that I mentioned to her, there's something called guided access, if you haven't used it before, that's in the iPad, and you can actually lock a student into a certain app or tool, and they cannot get out until you put in a certain code. So if they don't have that calculator, but they have an iPad, well, there's a way for them to use the iPad, and she locks them into that calculator, so they can't search, they can't get out until she lets them out. So that's something too to consider. If it's on the Android too, that something they can do that they don't have the device, but they can still get the work done. In your when you go to the iPad under settings, let me stop this.
Even if it's